program description, time and cost benefits of robotics in processing Amazon deductions and chargebacks is as follows. Amazon spins deductions and chargebacks back at suppliers at an enormous rate and volume. The problem gets complicated as they have the ability to do that at the level of line items of invoice and PO. This combination of reach and volume puts a tremendous amount of pressure on departments to resolve them. In this webinar, you will learn why robotics is a friend and coworker that takes away all the pressure of time and cost from the department and lets the department go about their operations smoothly and timely. Presenting today's program is Rohit Patel, Credit and Collections Consultant at iNymbus. Rohit has extensive experience in the credit and collections arena with long tenures leading the credit and collections teams at Sony Computer Entertainment America, Warner Brothers, Home Entertainment, and ResMed. At these companies, Rohit's expertise includes the development of strategic plans that led to improved financial operating results and successful global ERP implementations, as well as other process and system enhancements that led to increased efficiencies. Rohit believes that technology will play a critical role in the future of credit and collections and is always looking for cutting-edge technology that disturbs the norm. Rohit has a degree from England, enjoys traveling and spending time with his family. So without further ado, I'm pleased to turn the program over to Rohit.
Thank you, Caitlin, and I appreciate everyone participating in this webinar today. Okay, let me make sure that the slides are working. Here we go. All right, so you do see Sridhar on there. Unfortunately, he won't be able to present with me today, but just a little bit of background. Sridhar and I have worked together for almost over 10 years, looking at technology over those 10 years, and we've started to adopt it into the credit and collections space, all the way from Excel spreadsheets, Access databases, ERP systems, to software, deduction software, to robotics technology, which I'll talk to you about later on today. So again, the topic of discussion, like Caitlin mentioned earlier on, is Amazon chargebacks and deductions processing via robots, right? You may hear me say bots from time to time, but I'm talking about robots and robotics technology, right? And what does it really mean to the credit and collections departments? We are going to be talking about deductions today. That's going to be our focus. And is this truly a hands-off and no human scenario? We'll talk a little bit about that. And what can robots do and what can't they do? Brief agenda, right? So I'm going to talk about how technology is as a therapist to the credit and collections space, why you can't win and why you need robots, and what you can do to get your own bots, and then transformation in 3 easy steps. So technology as a therapist. One of the questions I've always asked my team and other companies that we've looked at is about chargebacks and deductions is, how does processing chargebacks and deductions make you feel? Often we have to get down to the root cause to see what it does, but there is a psychological impact on the departments as a whole, right? These answers may be similar to what you find, but again, one of the key ones is my staff are overwhelmed by the mountains of paperwork. We never seem to get ahead. I remember at Warner Brothers when I started there, we had almost 2.5 years worth of backlog, and the team were doing settlements and reconciling on a quarterly or 6-month batch process. So, the paperwork, it can be overwhelming to the team. Another response we've seen is, I feel terrible that my team members have to do this kind of work. Somebody has to. We know it's repetitive, and often it's the same work over and over again. They often feel as if they're in a hamster wheel that's going round and round, but somebody's got to get this work done. Another response that we've also seen is, I dread the holidays because of the onslaught of, you can say Amazon, you can replace Amazon with any retailer out there, chargebacks. I have to request a lot of overtime from my department. You may see this right after the holiday season, whether you have a new release coming out or a new product coming out. But often you will see peaks and valleys, but sometimes they do dread that time of year. Last but not least, I wince every time I order something from Amazon. Frankly, they make me a little angry. I do remember part of my team used to boycott going to Walmart because they were the biggest challenge we had. And often settlements were, they did all this work and they would only get pennies on the dollar, so they would kind of boycott that. But they do have the lowest prices, but it does have a psychological impact on them. I'm sure these sound very familiar. Now, is your team also stuck under a huge, never-ending pile of chargebacks and deductions? I had mentioned this earlier on, right? Sometimes chargebacks can simply get out of control if you have a disconnect in your supply chain, all the way from order to cash. If there are challenges along there, those can pile up very, very quickly. We're always a few months behind, maybe more. I've been afraid to look. So, as they start to clean up one pile, another pile constantly comes up. Companies deal with this by putting temps in there, and we'll talk about that in a little while as well. My staff hates this work. Like I mentioned earlier on, if it's repetitive and then it's going over and over again, they don't feel as if they're adding value to the organization, and often are looking to move to other departments. Now, the same data needs to be entered into multiple systems. So when a chargeback comes in, if it comes in from a retailer that's not tech savvy, you may have to enter it into your ERP system. You may have to enter it into a deduction system or Excel spreadsheet. Once you've resolved it, you're going to have to enter it up into a customer portal as well. So that data is being used multiple times, but if it's not fully automated, can be entered into multiple systems. Keeping up with the ever-changing retail portal slows us down even more. I've seen out there where Amazon, not last Christmas, actually it was last Christmas, they decided to change some of their technology and how your cursor would move across the screen, which people are having problems with. They may shift one data entry cell from the left-hand screen to the right-hand screen. They may add additional fields for you guys to enter. So it's constantly updating. As they're updating their technology, you're having to keep up with them, and it often means retraining your team over and over again. And hiring and training seasonal temps, right, takes away from other issues. So once you have that huge pile, you try to tackle it with resources. That's all that you may currently have, but there is technology that's out there that I'll be talking about shortly. Let's be brutally honest, right? How can you beat them at their own game? The likes of these following companies, right? So, you see, this is a short list, right? So this is predominantly the major retailers that are out there in the space, but also with FedEx and UPS, right? So if there are issues with shipments, you often have to go to FedEx, UPS to file a claim for them for a lost shipment. But most of these companies have technology behind them, especially Amazon, and we'll be talking about them more later on. But Amazon spends a lot of money on robotics automation, as does Walmart, Home Depot. A lot of these companies now are trying to find out your buying patterns, but along the same time, that technology is being used on the back end to help them claw back monies from you guys as it relates to vendor compliance or any type of chargeback. They often will make you sign the vendor manual. It's a pretty thick book for all of them, and then they have clauses in there that they have the ability to claw back a lot of that monies from you. The simple truth is you really can't, right? In the world of chargebacks, companies like Amazon, they have more tech strategy, time and money than you will ever have or desire to have, right? Most of the companies, hopefully on the call, are building product, right, to get it out there. A lot of the money will go into R&D, research and development, and the back office. Whereas Amazon, they're strategically ready to target whatever is going to be best for them and whatever is going to save them as much money as possible. How are robots used in processing chargebacks, right? Quite simple, right? So robots will level the playing field, right? A chargeback and deduction robot exists to solve only one problem. What the robot will do is it will dispute retailer and shipper deductions and chargebacks at lightning speed. And what I mean by lightning speed is that when a deduction is created, bots can actually identify when those are created. They can identify what type of deductions that they are. Whether it's a shortage deduction, it can now go ahead and pull the POD for you automatically. It can go ahead and compare signatures for you. And if the number of boxes are correct and there's a signature, it can automatically go ahead and dispute that in a vendor portal. That process that I've just described can be used for anything. It can be used for return shortages, it can be used for pricing. It's just gathering that information from other places. And typically that's what one of your staff members would do through that. But bots are now designed to go ahead and do that and level the playing field. So as bots are taking deductions for Amazons of the world, your bots can actually be competing with them and keeping pace with their deductions. Your history is our history, right? And I've actually lived through this pain, again, through different companies like Caitlin had mentioned earlier on, right? And so back in the early 2000s, right, the technology was not there. We would have to add staff. So I remember at Warner Brothers, I had over 100 staff, and then seasonally we would hire almost 50 temps for the first quarter of a calendar year just to keep up with the deductions. Along the way, we put a software in there to manage the deductions, so they were all in one central area, central place, so that the team could work with them. We added workflow to that process, and we also added outsourcing to that because, as I showed you the slide earlier on, those pile of rocks, we decided to say the pile of rocks can be handled by the current team, and then the outsourcing team can handle the new chargebacks that are coming in so that you can get ahead of the game. And a lot of companies use a combo of everything, but bots is something that's new that a lot of companies have not got there. Will these solutions ever work, right? I say no right now. It did back then for me, but realize that some years back, that chargebacks and deductions were unbeatable, right? So my motto for my team was stop the bleeding, right? So whatever we can do to stop the bleeding, but because of the volumes of deductions and the people that we had to work with, it took a long time to figure out how to go back up the supply chain. The second bullet here talks about the retailer shippers, due to their size and technology investment, will always outpace suppliers, right? So they're going to continue to deduct more and more. I've seen instances, especially on the vendor compliance chargebacks, as little as pennies, right? They have the ability to do pennies. And don't think for a minute that you have a payables person that's actually writing up a chargeback for a penny. It's bots that are doing this. Last bullet here is they use automation and a ruthless ability to take every single chargeback and deduction possible. What they will do is we've seen is that they will just throw everything at suppliers, whether it sticks or not. And often a lot of the suppliers have thresholds. And if it's below the threshold, they get automatically written off. So there's money leakage that's going on constantly at a lot of companies. Now, technology is not just a bigger stick, right? It's a totally different way of dealing with deductions and chargebacks. Bots will allow you to fight fire with fire and bring your chargeback deductions to zero and keep them there consistently, right? So I've seen that actually happen with a couple of instances where the chargebacks are coming in within 24 hours, they're being disputed and resolved. Now, where they can and they need a little bit of human intervention, now you're dealing with the exceptions versus the big norm. And you can see the quote on the right-hand side, if you can't beat them, arrange to have them beaten. Okay, transformation. What happens if there aren't any chargebacks to process? Seriously, it can be scary, right? Change in any format is definitely scary, and we get it for sure. I'm sure you've all gone through this, or some of you have gone through this, right? You've worked at your company for many years, and it's time for the company to be more profitable, right? It's always about shareholder value, and you don't want to lay off your friends. But more and more companies are being asked to do more with less. Now, here's what really happened. Is a case study, right? So the biggest fear overall was, do I have to lay people off? And I'm going to have less people and so forth. This is a great case study from D&H Distributing, right? And these are quotes directly from them. I'll read the quote and then I'll talk a little bit about it, right? It's actually the ability that we haven't had to add staff. We reallocated capable folks into more valuable and more enduring paths, like the root cause analysis to help reduce the deductions. Like I mentioned earlier on, right? So when I was at Warner Brothers, there were challenges of keeping up with that. The team did not have the ability to do that. With this technology, you can reallocate capable folks to add more value staff. I mentioned earlier on Stop the Bleeding. They're able to go back, find out what that root cause is, and help reduce the deductions, right? Not just deal with the volume of deductions, but help reduce the deductions. So that's where the value add comes in from your organization. You and your team can grow, right? And again, another quote from Tony. All we were doing was plugging holes. Now, robots plug them automatically. It gives our staff the ability to figure out where those holes are coming from in the first place. Again, boils down to a root cause problem. You're adding more value to that individual on your team. So now, not only doing repetitive, they stop doing repetitive work. They're now, challenging themselves, bringing that knowledge that they may have as it relates to dealing with deductions, and start plugging those holes again. And I keep using Stop the Bleeding. So now they can stop the bleeding, go back upstream, meet with the departments, meet with sales, meet with order management, whoever it is, to stop that, because the bots will be doing that work for them. So as new chargebacks are coming in, the bots are automatically disputing them for them. A couple more quotes. You can keep your expenses flat, right? We can reallocate headcount now and use the staff in other areas that need attention outside of this world. This is from Heather, one of their senior directors. And as we grow, we don't have to add bodies. We can make it work. So we can make it work for us, right? So basically, this keeps your costs flat or down, right? Every penny that the robots are collecting for you is money back to the company's bottom line, right? As the volumes of deductions grow and chargebacks grow, the bots automatically will work faster, will go ahead and work at the pace of those chargebacks coming in. Bots don't take lunch breaks, they don't take vacations, they don't sleep. So whenever you ask them to work, they will continue to work. Now, you can go into new markets. So another quote from Tony, right? And it allows us to engage in customer distribution. As you know, they're a distributing company, right? That we generally try to shy away from because they are known from being troublesome, particularly in the segment of grocery and drugstores that are incredibly difficult to deal with. When we have this kind of tool in our arsenal that allows us to engage in a different customer. So in the case of D&H Distributing, they're dealing with grocery and drugstores. Not sure how many people on the call deal with that, but it's a constant battle with chargebacks. And it was great to hear from Tony to say that, hey, now we can focus in on new customers that we want to distribute for, because we can provide them the data, the information dealing with chargebacks, because they're in the middle and they're being able to see that they can go into new markets as well. One more quote for you guys. You are the hero, right? Not so fast, Amazon. We've got our own little robot army here, and we are going to fight you every step of the way. Like I mentioned earlier on, you have to fight fire with fire, or in this case, fight technology with technology. Now, talking about repurposing resources, that was earlier in like 2 of the 3 quotes that way. D&H says that they have up to 3 people who are adding value, right? They're not processing, so they've repurposed those heads. They're not processing chargebacks or deductions. That's equivalent to about 6,000 man-hours doing something else besides pushing paper, making copies, entering data. And, you know, D&H is far from done in looking at this technology and how they can use it in different areas as well. They always talk about transformation, right? So your department can transform to a strategic engine powering the company to go forward rather than just being a perceived expense drain, right? So it's always credit and collections. Yeah, we have to have them. It's an unnecessary evil. We've got to collect this money. If we don't collect this money, it's bad debt. But the good news is you can turn it into a profit center, hopefully, in the sense that you can go back upstream. You can go ahead and now focus in on the root cause problems and add more value to your team, to their day-to-day lives. I love this image about the butterfly being digital, right? So that is a robot right at the end, making sure it's being done in a timely manner. By the numbers, right? So when we started off this webinar, we wanted to talk about numbers. And, you know, this is from a similar case study as it relates to advantages of robotic automation processing. Now, you'll hear me say that in a little while again. But again, time to organize and file a claim. And this varies from company to company. We get it. So it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months if there's a huge backlog. The bots can pretty much do it within 24 hours, if not in the same day, right? We've noticed that on the cash flow side as well, that the cash is coming in much quicker versus coming in 3 to 6 months when you're actually able to get to filing those claims. If you're filing claims instantly, there have actually been instances where Amazon are paying and Walmart are paying back within weeks of that being charged back. But sometimes they will have robots on their side too. So if you're disputing a chargeback, I don't think a person is going to, on the retailer side, is going to manually go ahead and look at every single one. So if it meets specific thresholds, and the bots will automatically go ahead and pay those back for you. Now, a retailer upload resource effort, right? So more and more retailers are asking you to do their work for you. So uploading into the portals, right? So basically you are doing the AP work in a system And so like that way they can use that data and process whether it needs to be paid back or not, right? So often that's about 240 FT hours for 1,000 claims a month, right? You may say that's high, your volumes may not be there, but like I mentioned earlier on, bots will be able to do that. It takes split seconds for them to automatically going ahead and uploading that into the retailer portals. Yearly training and retraining, right? So the bots are constantly making sure that the data is entered in not only a timely manner, but accurate. That information is from your systems or from the retailer portal system. And so the training here is pretty much zero, in the sense that, if a retailer I mentioned earlier on will move that cell from one corner to the other corner of the screen, the bots will have to figure that out automatically, and you don't have to manually train your teams over and over again. Now, cost per claim, anywhere from $1 or less per claim versus manually doing one claim, $5.28. Again, these numbers are from a case study that we have. And so not only do you save money, but you can repurpose those as well. So I wanted to share some numbers with you guys. How can you be part of this transformation? Right, so let's keep it simple, right? I think you should definitely look to schedule a demo for robotic process solutions, right? I mentioned solutions because there are companies that are out there that say that there are solutions, to make sure that you find the right one for you, right? So definitely get a demo to see their capabilities are doing. Assess your vendor, right? To make sure that they are able to do robotic integration points and recommend a roadmap, right? So once you've got the demo, you've got to make sure, hey, by the way, are they capable of integrating into Amazons of the world, Walmarts of the world, Home Depots, or whoever the case may be, easily and smoothly, right? And then definitely onboard and train, right? You got to have subject matter experts in all areas, implementation experts walk you through every step of the way. And typically, these are SaaS solutions that are out there. And a SaaS solution, they're going to take care of all of the updates for you, so that there should be little to no training on that side. Now, we know you have to every day you have to put out fires, right? But you don't have, okay, let me read this again, but you don't have to let urgent issues and fragmentation dominate your strategic vision. So if the company has a vision to put in robotics solutions, not only in the deduction space, but in other areas, definitely if it's a strategic vision for your department or the company as a whole, take the first step and actually just, make sure that you do get a demo. Again, change can be scary, right? We've been doing this for years. It's great. It's been working. We've put in Excel spreadsheets in there. I've used macros, but again, you still have that manual intervention. So yes, change definitely can be scary. Now, before I wrap up in a few minutes, IT, right? Your IT group is big. They're tough and fights any new technology project and vendors, right? So they have a million projects that they're doing, SAP upgrade, they're onboarding EDI customers, they're doing all kinds of things for you. And sometimes they may claim to have some of this robotics technology as well. But, earlier this year in the CIO magazine, there was this quote, right? Software that automates basic tasks is catching hold in large enterprises, where CIOs are seeking to inject greater efficiency into business processes. Again, called robotic process automation, RPA. Now, the technology enables IT departments to use a piece of software called a robot to perform routine tasks. It's real, it's out there. The Wall Street Journal constantly uses robotics technology that are out there. So definitely the IT organizations are not scared of it. They actually do embrace this because this is the next step for them also. Before I move to the last slide, I was going to make another point on the technology that's out there. Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of technology because it will free up your time to deal with the root cause issues that are truly hurting your department. Now, iNymbus is one of the companies that, like Caitlin mentioned, that I consult with. And here are 10 reasons, right? They have first-person knowledge in the credit and collection space. 2, cloud-based solutions scales with you, right? So no growing challenges. Mentioned earlier on, so as more deductions come in, bots will do that work for you. Number 3, bot building capabilities in-house. It's in there. They know it. They've done it. They've proven themselves. 4 is artificial intelligence capabilities in-house also, right? So everyone talks about AI. There are a lot of people, even the top scientists, are scared about using artificial intelligence, but use the right space can be very powerful. Number 5, processes which keep us up with supplier and retail portals and pivot quickly, right? So I mentioned earlier on, any changes to a portal, a SaaS solution should be able to do that automatically. Number 6, systems architect is best in class. A lot of people will claim that, but I remember working with Sridhar even before iNymbus was formed, spent a couple of years developing the technology and really getting a process down to its basic core 3 to 4 steps. So they do have the architecture built in there. Implementation speed is weeks and not months, right? You saw in the previous slide about IT. It is a SaaS solution, and so there is no need for an IT organization to maintain this solution, right? It's up to the SaaS provider to do that for you. There's definitely IT involvement as it relates to accessing data and how the feeds go back and forth, for sure. But implementation, I've seen one as quickly as 4 weeks and not months. Pricing is a SaaS model, for sure. Number 9, customer has a direct line into iNymbus for issues. They can call in directly to the line and figure out what the problem is and be able to fix it. From what I'm hearing, the good news is that not a lot of calls come in. Once it's up and running, the bots are doing the work. It's only when there's a process change that people need to get involved. Typically, systems go up and down, but with this kind of solution, not really seeing a lot of back and forth if they didn't get the data and so forth. Number 10, last but not least, no cost trial. Again, use the service for 30 days prior to even making the first payment. From what they're telling me, if you like it, you can buy it. If not, no harm, no foul. So, iNymbus Deductions, Exchange, Robots, Dispute, the bots are right there, ready for you. And I wanted to thank you, and I'll turn it over to Caitlin to open up for any questions that people may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rohit, for all of your insight and technique. So yes, now it's time to address some of the questions that we've received. The first question that I have here is, can companies buy robotics process automation tools and do it themselves?
The answer to that is yes. There are solutions that are out there that you can go ahead and buy if you go and Google it. But the challenge with that is the knowledge isn't there, right? So you can go ahead and buy them, but you would have to design each and every one. You'd have to get IT involved to understand what that software can do. it's not as easy and plug and play to do that. So yes, there are solutions that are out there for sure.
Okay. What are any security issues with robots assessing company data?
So far, we've not seen any. Now, it all depends upon your internet policy, right? Your security policy within the companies that they have. Often there's pushes that go forward, or there are secure FTP sites where this data can be stored. But the robots are basically repeating work that your team would do, right? So if your team would have had access to this data and there was no security issue, same thing with the bots. If they have access to the same data, there are no issues because they are entering customer portals or they're entering your systems that are all secure and, you know, on either FTP sites or internet sites that are asking for security questions and so forth. So we're not seeing an issue there.
Okay. See here. Do retailers block robots from accessing their site? Sorry.
We've not seen that happen. Now, retailers are becoming smarter, and I'm sure the audience have been to sites where they're asking you to click images. You know, it's like a little grid, and you got to click images of cars and so forth, right? So they'll try to deter robots from doing that. But again, we found that most companies, a robot is just another mechanism for you to access their portal, enter that information. So not seeing many issues as it relates to accessing retailer portals.
Okay. How does AI come into play with robotics process automation?
So AI is, again, artificial intelligence that works on gathering data, right? So where the bots are constantly doing repetitive work, all that data can be stored in a system, right? And what will happen with AI is AI will come in and look to see if there are any specific patterns, right? Whether it's signatures that it's looking for, or the weight analysis and so forth. So artificial intelligence is basically coming as the next step of robotic process automation. Once the robots are there, the data's in there, artificial intelligence will come in and look to see how it can help with root cause analysis potentially.
All right. Well, thank you for all of the wonderful questions. Unfortunately, we are now out of time. A link to the on-demand version of this program will be sent to you following our webinar. On behalf of everyone at RVCF, we'd like to thank you for attending today's seminar. For those of you who have further questions about the material covered in today's presentation or whose questions were not addressed in the Q&A portion, please feel free to contact iNymbus directly. Please note that iNymbus will be presenting at the RVCF Fall Conference, so be sure to attend, introduce yourself, and ask questions. Thank you, and have a great day.